Happy Mother's Day. If you are a mother, I hope people are treating you well today. If you have a mother, I hope you're treating her well today. And if you're a guy who's responsible for making someone a mother, this is going to be a lot about you today. So moms, happy Mother's Day. You're going to you can kind of take a pass a little bit. Nah, not really. But here's what you need to do. You need to sit close enough to your dude that you can kind of jab him once in a while, because there'll be some of those moments. So I'll give you an opportunity. Everybody comfortable? You're all like, do I really move? Yeah, go ahead and move. That's okay. Or at least have a poker or something. You can go at him a little bit, because it's important to understand that Mother's Day is not just the second Sunday in May each year. I mean, now we all know this, right? But do we practice the fact that Mother's Day is like what? Like every day, right? Every day should be Mother's Day. But to be quite honest, we don't always treat moms that well, do we? I heard some moms say amen. It doesn't happen. But here's the deal, guy, dude, right? If you're the man in the home, it is your job to make sure that you understand how to treat your wife. But it's also your job to make sure your children know how to treat your wife. And it's your job to make sure that everybody around your wife understands that she's a pretty awesome person, right? So this is who I'm talking about today. It's in Ephesians chapter 5, and obviously we've read this before. There's only so many texts out there that talk about wives and husbands and moms. So you've heard some of this before, but I guarantee you need to hear it again, because we're lazy, guys. Yeah, and we forget stuff easily. So here we go. Husbands, Ephesians chapter 5, verse 25. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. We could probably stop right there. That's pretty good, right? If we can get that figured out, we're in good shape, right? Too much sausage, too many pancakes, right? I mean, honestly. But we'll read on that he gave himself up for her, that he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by the washing of water with the word, so that he might present the church to himself in splendor, without spot or wrinkle or any such thing, that she might be holy and without blemish. In the same way, husbands should love their wives as their own bodies. He kind of goes selfish here now, right? Okay, guys, if the Jesus card doesn't work, let's do the selfish card, right? In the same way, husbands should love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. Guys love themselves, right? You do, right? I've seen you walk by mirrors, you're like, oh, yeah. Right? I mean, yeah, straighten. He knows how you're wired, right? No one ever hated his body, verse 29 says, or hated his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it, just as Christ does the church, because we're members of its body. Therefore, a man shall leave his father and mother, hold fast to his wife, the two shall become one flesh. This mystery is profound, and I'm saying that it refers to Christ and the church. However, let each one of you love his wife as himself, and let the wife see that she respects her husband. So there's the one jab you get for the guys. But notice how many words are to the wives here? What, about 3? The guys, we got this big old paragraph. Okay, guys, dudes, you're going to forget this, so I'm going to explain this out to you. I'm going to give you some illustrations, going to make sure you get this. And wives, go ahead and respect your husband, right? If you're doing your job, husband, everything else falls into place. But here's the deal. We are so slow at catching on to things. I mean, we've heard this before. If you've been in the church a while, you've heard this before. This is not going to be new news to you. You know this, but we don't often live this thing down. Live this. So what I've done is I've broken this down into little tiny pieces for guys like me who need to kind of really think about it, right? So you ready? This is going to be fairly painless. But you really have to do this. Really. If you want to have a successful marriage and a successful family. But Paul's saying here, very, very simply, my wife is more important than I am. That's what he's saying. You look at your marriage relationship in a way that your wife is the most important person in that family. This is going to make a great family, great children, and Mother's Day will be every single day. That's just how it works. My wife is more important than I am. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. Now, you understand what he's talking about there, right? The cross, right? He died for the church. He went all the way for the church. There's nothing he wouldn't do for the church, right? And verse 28, in the same way husbands should love their wives as their own bodies, he who loves his wife loves himself. Now, this word love, if you've been in the church a while, this is not new either. In verse 25 and 28 is the Greek word, what is it? Agape, right? You know this. It's a word is often used in Scripture. It has to do with love. It is not something you can fall into, right? It is not something you can fall out of. The music doesn't play and the lights are low and you're like, hey, I agape you. You know, I mean, that's not this. This is not what agape is. It's not something that happens. It's something you do. It is something you do purposefully. You make it happen. It is a decision that you make to treat someone in an elevated way. That's what that whole love word is all about in the Greek language here. I'm going to treat you better than me. In this relationship, this marital relationship that we have, you're the most important person here. Between the two of us, you're number one. Now, some people like to look at love as a conditional kind of thing, right? I love you because you're attractive. I love you because I love the way you make me feel. I love you. You make me laugh. You know, that's not this love. That's not what this is talking about. Agape is an unconditional kind of love that says, I love you even though you hurt my feelings. It's not easy, right? I love you even though I'm really not particularly attracted to you right now. You kind of make me throw up in my mouth a little bit right now, right? I love you even though. I love you even though. It is the ultimate, unconditional, tenacious, sacrificial kind of love, and its source comes directly from God. Matter of fact, I would say, I don't know that you can even have this love without God in your life, because it is so anti-me. It is so anti-natural. It is not how we just naturally do relationships. In most of our relationships, we're all about us, right? We naturally go to this idea that I'm the most important, elevated person in the relationship. And if I'm not getting my needs met, if things aren't really going the way I like it, I'm out of here, right? That's not agape love. Agape love says, no matter what's happening on my end, I'm in it for you. I'm lifting you up. You're the one who's elevated. You're the one who's important. I'm second. I don't know that you can do that outside of God. It's just not natural. So Paul says, husbands, love your wives. Make sure your wife is the most important person in your marriage. Society is going to tell you otherwise. Your inner self's going to tell you otherwise. You're, like I said, in your world, life centers around your needs, but that's not agape love. The one who designed you, who knit you together, the one who designed marriage, the one who designed motherhood, right? The one who invented this whole thing, the one who really knows how it goes down. He says, yeah, your life, guy, centers around meeting the needs of your wife. We'll break that down a little bit more a little later. And here's what's crazy, though. The more you focus on meeting the needs of your wife, you know what just kind of happens? She really wants to meet yours too. It just kind of works. Everybody's happy in this way. God knows what He's doing here. He knows what He's doing here. Husbands, love your wives. But here's the deal: even if it doesn't work that way, even if she doesn't turn around and say, you know what, you're making me happy, I want to really make you happy, you still get to meet her needs. She's still the most important one in the relationship. Paul didn't say, husbands, love your wives as long as she's keeping you happy. He didn't say, husbands, love your wives. She'll make sure you're glad you're dead. He says, husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church. And He gave himself up for her. He died for her. Another thing Paul is saying here. You all get that, right? So yes, you're right. Okay, now the rest of this year, the rest of your life, you're going to walk around, and who's the most important person in your relationship? Okay, your wives are listening. You know that, right? Oh, she is. All right. Here's another one. My wife deserves praise. She deserves praise. He might, verse 27, he might present the church to himself in splendor without spot or wrinkle or any such thing, that she might be holy and without blemish. So, guys, when you talk about your wife to your friends, when you talk about your wife to your co-workers, when you talk about your wife to your neighbors, even to her directly, what kind of things come out of your mouth? How do you present her? Are you building her up? Are you making her sound like the best thing since sliced bread? Are you like really bragging on her? Does she sound like the most amazing person ever born? Think about this. Jesus presents the church as being without spot or wrinkle, holy and blameless. Okay? If you're a Christ follower, Jesus presents you as holy, blameless, without spot, without wrinkle. Now we both know the answer to this, but humor me for a moment here. Are you, spiritually speaking, without spot outside of Jesus? Are you without wrinkle? Are you without blemish? Any mistakes you have ever made in your life? Any mistakes you make periodically? You're like, oh, I'm trying to get that. It just keeps happening. That ever happen? You ever say anything maybe you shouldn't say? Ever do anything you really shouldn't say? Isn't it crazy that Jesus knows everything about you, even what you're thinking? And he goes, look at this spotless, blemish-free child of mine. Presents you as holy and blameless. And Paul says, husband, you do the same about your wife. You do your same about your wife. Present her as holy and blameless and clean. Brag her up a little bit. Now, in the real world, I know, you know this, right? Your wife is human, and you know that she has, failures, and she has weaknesses, and maybe we'll call them blemishes, right? Personality speaking, or character speaking, she has flaws, right? But your job is to present her, not list first. Here's the list of blemishes, but as without blemish. I have no list. I can't think of anything to say negative about my wife right now. Why did you ask? Present her, brag her up. Your friends don't need to know her inadequacies. Oh, but I got to vent. No, you don't. No, you don't. Your coworkers don't need to know her imperfections. Your children don't need to know that she's not the most perfect person ever. Now, that's kind of tough, especially if you're like going, if I'd say that either. That's your job. You present her that way. A few years ago, I went with a group of friends to a birthday party of a friend of ours, and the husband, it was the wife's birthday, and the husband brought with him a Bible to this restaurant. We were outside, or out in a public area, a public restaurant, and we're eating, and he pulls out his Bible, and he starts reading Proverbs 31, right? And he's reading through this proverb, and then he starts heaping this praise on his wife. And if you're not familiar with Proverbs 31, it starts out by saying in Proverbs 31:10, an excellent wife who can find? She is far more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain. Like, he totally has confidence in his wife. He has complete trust in her. And it goes down through this whole list of positive attributes in Proverbs 31. She's a hard worker. She buys and sells real estate. She buys clothes. She makes clothes. She's a businesswoman. She makes the greatest food ever. This whole list of things, like for 17 more verses, that just keeps piling on all these things. And then Proverbs 31 concludes by saying in verse 28, her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many women have done excellently, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful, beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, let her works praise her in the gates. Right? So he reads the whole thing. He doesn't skip all those verses I skipped. Yeah, I paraphrase. He reads the whole thing, and he starts piling on this praise to his wife, right? And I'll be honest, I'm sitting there in this group of people in a restaurant where he's saying it loud enough for obviously for her to hear and for us to hear, but also kind of, people around you can't help it, they're going to hear it too. And I'm in my own little heart, I'm thinking, this is like the dorkiest thing I've ever seen in my life, right? I'm like, this is kind of embarrassing. I'm feeling a little uneasy. I'm kind of embarrassed for her, and I'm embarrassed for him. I'm a little embarrassed for me. Right? I'm having this really negative, response internally. I'm smiling, like, oh, this is great. Dork, this is dorky. That's kind of what's going on. And as he goes on, at some point in there, it occurs to me, what a beautiful thing he was doing. Just because I'm too embarrassed to do something like that, it was actually pretty cool that he would so openly praise his wife, who is a very godly woman and really does all these things. And I realized there for a moment that wow, he has invited us into this very holy moment in their marriage, where he publicly lifted up his wife and said, look at this wonderful woman. And the children were all there going, yeah, that's her. That's her. That was her birthday. I'm sure they treated her poorly the next day. But that's what was going on here. My wife deserves that too. Doesn't yours? Honestly. Doesn't yours? A last thing here. There's no one more beautiful than my wife. Guys, we forget this one too. Yeah, we do. There is no one more beautiful than my wife. I will never forget that day when our wedding day, 30-some years ago now, it's been a while, and the doors opened to that little church we were in, and there she was, right? And the music starts, and she walks down the aisle, and it was like one of those photographic effects where like everything goes fuzzy, around the sides, and all you see is the person, the subject in the middle. Like that was like my view that day, right? This amazingly beautiful woman was walking down to see me, right? I mean, she wasn't like just going for a stroll or whatever. I mean, she was coming. She was coming to me. Now, what I didn't know about, and some of you know this because I don't know, a few years ago I told you about this, so some of you will know this, but I didn't know, and I found out later, was moments before she opened, whoever opened the door, and she came into the door, her grandmother looked at her moments before and said, "Oh, honey, you have a pimple." Okay, if you're a grandmother, don't do that. Don't do that, right? If you're a maid of honor, if you're anywhere near a bride, okay, and she's nowhere near a mirror to confirm or deny what's going on, and she's about to walk down the aisle, please don't go up to her and say, "Oh man, you look ugly. You're ugly. You have a horn sticking out of your head. What happened?" Okay, that's a bad idea. All right. Anyway, that's what happens, right? She recovers somehow. The doors open. She's like smiling, and like I said, the music starts. She's walking down the aisle. I spend the next half hour or so, however long that was, 45 minutes, like inches from her face, right? I didn't see any horns, right? I didn't see any pimples, right? I mean, I didn't know any of this until later on. We're like going off on our little trip, and we're driving on the road, and she goes, "You wouldn't believe what my grandma said to me," and she tells me the story, and I'm like, I don't see it. She's like, "No, really, see, it's right here." I can't even remember. I don't remember. I was like, I never saw the thing. Never saw it. See, what I saw, that's not to say I've never seen a pimple on her, okay? What I saw that day was the most beautiful woman in the world pledging her life to me. Guys, there is no one more beautiful than a woman who says, you're the man. You're it. No one more beautiful than that. I mean, look in the mirror. You did good, right? It's beautiful. Here's the thing, and this is where, guys, we forget how beautiful our wives are as time goes on. Because what happens is there are women out there who are younger than your wife. There are women out there who are more fit than your wife. There are women out there who have better features, whatever features you like, than what your wife has. And I'm going to say this delicately. The older you get, the bigger that pool is. You know what I'm saying? Of people who might be younger. Okay, yeah, right? But there is no one more beautiful than that woman who pledges her life to you. Don't ever forget that. Ever forget that. Now, it's Mother's Day, so I'm gonna give you a gift. You always give gifts on Mother's Day, right? I'm assuming, yeah. If you don't, you got time, right? Go get a gift. Right? So I'm going to give you a gift. There's been 795 surveys taken over the last 14,000 years, and they always come out like the same because we're like the same. Like we don't change. So this again, this isn't going to be something you've not heard. Okay? If you've ever read a book, this is going to be like, oh yeah, I remember this. If you've ever seen a video series, they're always in here, right? Because we're basically the same. Now I say that these are in generalities, right? But always when you take these surveys, these top 3 needs pop up for women all the time. They just keep popping up. So here's my gift to you to make sure you know what to give the mom in your life, the woman in your life who is the mother of your children. Number 1, and this is huge, okay? Affection. Wives, how many want just affection from your husband? Yeah. Affection. Yeah, they're all like either going, or they're like, yeah. It always comes out on top here. Now, you will have to ask your specific wife, what does affection mean to you? Because we're kind of slow, and we don't figure things out, right. It might be a romantic little, when I say romantic, not sexual, just a nice little back rub, like, oh, just love you, honey. Could be that. Could be just holding her hand when you're going for a walk around the park or the block or whatever. It could be as simple as looking at her in the eyes over dinner, giving her your full attention rather than all the other distractions and things you could be doing. It could be snuggling up on the couch watching a movie, giving her a long embrace at the end of the day. She's had a rough day. Just give me a hug. You have to ask her what this means to her. She's pretty smart. She knows what she wants, right? And trust her when she says that. We're like, oh, yeah. And understand, your wife needs affection without the expectation that she has to then turn around and go for your number 1 need. Okay? She just show her affection. Number one. Now, if you don't do it, she'll find it somewhere else. Why do you think romance novels? Do you think romance novels are really well written? I guess I have never written one. I shouldn't say I've never read one. But I mean, that's I'm just saying, she'll find it somewhere. Affection. I could have just saved your marriage if you take this to heart. Number 2, conversation. Okay? This is tough for a lot of dudes. We're not wired this way. This isn't our natural go-to thing. Hey, let's have a talk, right? That generally is not how we're wired. We're wired to not talk. So many of us will have to work on this actually a little bit more than some of the other things. I mean, even as early as when we're little boys and little girls, we're different, right? What do boys do when they're out there playing? They take a car and they're like, they're doing that, and going, they're running around making noises, right? That's what we do. And what do girls do? They talk. They get in little groups and talk. Sometimes they're catty, whatever. But they talk to each other. As a matter of fact, if there's not another little girl around to talk, what they will do is they have dolls. And what do? They talk. They talk to the dolls. They'll have a whole conversation. Oh, I love your hair today. Let's have some tea. I don't know what they say. I'm not a guy. I'm not a girl. But they talk. The places I could go with that. I used to walk past our girls' bedrooms throughout the ages, and I'd who are they talking to in there? And I'm oh, their bear, their dog, whatever. They're just talking. They talk. Have you ever? I remember as a boy playing house. And the girls can you play house? And the neighborhood girls okay. I'd sit there and they'd be going, and they'd going to work now. And that was it was the same as we were little kids as when we got older, right? Guys, please catch this. I mean, it's funny because it's true. Your wife needs conversation. Now let's all define. That's not conversation. You catch that? Fine. It's not conversation. How was your day today? Fine. Really? They're sitting there going, they want to know more. They want to have the conversation, right? So reach into your soul, guys. As exhausting as that can be, and just talk to your wife. Now you can't check that off a list and say, I talked to her last week, I mean, come on. No, that's like a daily daily thing. They want us to talk. Those needs that you have, guys, that are all powerful and wonderful, and you think the world centers around and everyone should be concerned about this. This is the same thing for your wife. It is her need that is all powerful and all wonderful, and everything centers around it in her world. And if you don't give it to her, she will find it somewhere else. You know how most affairs start at work? Conversation. Oh, the dude talks back. What else do you got to do? You're trying to not work, right? Well, yeah, let's talk about, and all of a sudden a relationship forms. Conversation is the greatest, at least second greatest, gift you can give your wife. Now, your wife might have a different order, slightly different things. Talk to her. You have to ask that's great conversation for you to have later, right? Have your conversation. The third one is attention, which is kind of the flip side and part of equally connected to the conversation. This is attention. That every person be quick to hear. Okay, I'm going to listen to her. I'm paying attention to her. I'm going to listen to her. Slow to speak, slow to anger. How about this one? If Proverbs 18, if one gives an answer before he hears it, is his folly and shame. Guys, have you ever answered the question before she really finished asking it? You just know where she's going. Yeah, just do this. She's like, I'm only halfway done with the question. That wasn't really my question. We've all been there. This is that listening part. When your wife has a problem, has a struggle going on, a relationship person with a friend of hers, or something at work, or something she just wants to talk about it. She was, hey, so and so said this, and so did that, and she just wants to talk about it. She wants to share about how she's feeling about it. I know that's not how you're wired. Okay, that's not the time to grab your phone and say, yeah, yep. See this on Facebook? The guacamole recipe. No. She needs your attention from her. And while she is just wanting to have the conversation and the talk, you immediately go in the guy mode, which is to do what to her problems? Fix it. Yes. Well, I have the solution for you. She didn't ask for the solution. Okay. She wants to talk about it. So you're sitting there, have the struggle at work, this gal does this guy does that, things are really rough, things are piling up, I can't believe what's happening. Guy goes in the quick fix-it mode to say, well, why don't you quit? Why don't you put in a transfer? Why don't you find a different job? And she's like, I love my job. Doesn't sound like it. Like she just wants, don't fix it. If she wants you to fix it, she'll say, hey, what shall I do to fix it? Okay, that's how you clue in. Okay? You already got the answer in your head, I know. So when she says, hey, what do you think I should do? Then you say, oh, I thought you'd never ask. Well, you'll give her list of things to do. And she might want that, but probably that'll be at the end of a very long, to you, conversation. Let her talk. Pay attention. Give her the attention that she so much desires. That is a gift. And guys, you're cheap, okay? It doesn't cost you anything. That's a win, right? I just thought I'd throw that in, okay? That's not in my notes. She wants to talk to her soulmate. If you want to be her soulmate, you've got to do your part and engage, pay attention, do the conversation. All right, it's Mother's Day. You got Mother's Day stuff to do today? Let's do it. Let's stand. We're going to pray. No closing song today. We only have half a band, right? And how do you do a closing song to this? I don't know. Let's just pray. Father God.